Welcome to Culture of Success. We are Jessica Ray and Kerry Kelly from Fiddler's Gulf Coast. Our goal with sharing this information is that you understand the impact your beliefs and actions have on school culture and success of students, including those with disabilities. We will be focusing on three areas that can make a big difference in student outcomes. These are person-first language, presuming competence, and de-escalation skills. As we continue, we ask that you reflect on your current way of work and ask yourself how you can utilize these ideas to ensure that all students at your school, including those with a disability, feel welcomed and understand that they are a valued part of the school community. Educational opportunities and outcomes for students with disabilities have improved due to courageous advocacy from individuals, their families, and professionals. This advocacy led to policy and law change such as the Education for All Handicapped Children Act in 1975 and its amended version in 1997, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, known as IDEA. Students who were once denied access to any public education are now able to fully participate in their neighborhood schools with supports. This has led to better outcomes, such as more students with disabilities graduating from high school. This journey for students starts with working together as a school community to build a culture of success. How can we cultivate a culture of success so that all students feel welcomed and supported? Let's think about the quote at the top of the picture. We are not a team because we work together. We are a team because we respect, trust, and care for each other. Your interactions with each other will set the tone for your interactions with students and their family members. Remember, you are representing your school every time you interact with a student or family member. Be aware of the message you are sending. A good place to start is person-first language. As you watch this video, think about why it's important to utilize person-first language.
As the Americans with Disabilities Act celebrates its 25th anniversary, person-first language is a way we can highlight the individual, change attitudes, and move everybody forward. Person-first language is about respect. It's about highlighting what a person can do. It's about recognizing a person for who they are, not a disability. Person-first language gives people dignity and the self-confidence to grow as individuals and contribute to their community. Words have tremendous power. Positive language promotes inclusion, and eliminating derogatory and demeaning terms like the R word help drive us towards creating a more equal and welcoming society. Use person-first language, because words really do matter.
Your words really do matter and sends an important message about how you view students. Referring to students by their names is best practice as it shows you recognize them as an individual. Using person-first language relays the message that the individual is a person first and not defined by a disability. Make sure you do not define a student by a disability. For instance, if you need to tell another staff member about a student, say a student with autism rather than the autistic student. Make sure you are aware of your language around parents too. For instance, saying your child with a mental health challenge sends a different message than saying your crazy child. Now individually reflect where you are in using person-first language. Is this an area you need improvement on? Keep each other accountable to use person-first language as you create a culture of success. Here are some examples of statements that utilize person-first language instead of ones that identify a person by their disability. Take a second, pause the video as you read the examples and non-examples of person-first language. Maintaining confidentiality is a responsibility all employees of Pinellas County Schools must adhere to. Confidentiality can help build trust among students and family members. It's important that the personal information you have access to about students and their families be kept private. In the next slides, we will discuss some confidentiality tips. As they are reviewed, think about how you measure up with these tips. Never discuss students, staff members, or school problems with anyone outside the school unless required by law or after a parental release has been signed. Don't point out or label students in public or outside the school as a student with a disability. This includes talking to other parents in or outside of the school. Do not use the name of a student if describing your job. When discussing a school-related matter with other students or adults, keep it positive. Think for a moment how you would feel if you heard through the grapevine that your personal information was being shared with others without your knowledge. Would you feel like you were in a safe learning environment? Help build your school's culture of success by keeping confidential information confidential. Sometimes people assume that a student is being lazy, unmotivated, or a brat because of a learning or behavior issue. They may even assume that the student doesn't belong in the learning environment because of it. In the next video, some students will share some insight into how they could be more successful in school.
Dear teacher, I know it doesn't always seem like it, but I really do want to listen and learn.
It's just my brain is kind of different. So this is what I'd like you to know about me. I have to move, or I really can't pay attention.
Even though I'm not looking at you, I can still listen to what you're saying.
If you tell me, sit up straight, now I have to use all of my brain to do just that.
It makes me feel sad when you tell me to try harder, even though I've already tried as hard as I can.
I actually listen better when I'm rocking in my chair. When you give me a bunch of directions, I start to think I will never remember all of this. Sometimes my mom or dad ends up doing all of my homework. So here's how you could maybe help. Let me get up and move while I'm learning.
Let me look wherever I want when you talk to me.
Let me rock or slouch in my chair.
No matter what, please don't take away my recess. Give me help I could do all by myself. Make directions very short.
Just ask me, what does your brain need right now?
And one more thing. My brain might be different than yours, but it's still amazing.
Sincerely, your student.
Your student.
Your student. Your student.
To create a culture of success, we have to assume competence. That is, we need to believe that all students, given the right supports, can be successful. Take a minute and think of how you view students that are either in your classroom or those you interact with in the office, cafeteria, and hallways. Do you recognize their strengths and what they are able to do, or are you focused more on challenges? The next 3 slides will provide some strategies that will help us send a message to students, including those with disabilities, that we view them as competent learners and valued members of our school community. You might not be able to see someone's disability. There are many disabilities that are hidden within a person. Just remember that many students with disabilities do not have any outward physical characteristics of a disability. Don't become frustrated with such a student and not understand why supports are needed. Avoid using stereotypes in your thinking. We all have different personalities and our own way of doing things. You may have heard the phrase, when you've met one student with autism, you've met one student with autism. This phrase really applies to everyone. Thinking about students by stereotypes, for instance, all those who do not communicate with words have nothing to say, can restrict our thinking about what the student is able to do. Offer compliments, but avoid giving a lot of praise when people with disabilities do typical things. Do not overly praise a student with a disability, especially for skills they are already proficient at or ones that their peers demonstrate. For example, overly praising a student for throwing their garbage away when they've already demonstrated mastery of this task and everyone else their age is doing it independently. Always ask before giving assistance and let the person tell you what you may do to be helpful. Do not presume that a student can't do a particular task without your assistance. Ask the student, "How can I help?" and let them communicate that to you. Treat adults as adults. Use a typical tone of voice. Do not use baby language when speaking. Rather, use a tone that you would use with anyone that age. Speak to the student directly and not their support person or peer. By directly communicating with the student, we are sending the message that we know they are a competent communicator. Don't assume that a person who has limited or no speech cannot understand what is being said. Give them a means to communicate. For example, some students may use picture cards, gestures, or even sign language to communicate. Never pretend you understand what is said when you don't. Ask the person to repeat their question or thoughts by saying it again or in a different way. Do not try to finish a person's sentence or cut them off. Instead, listen until they have finished talking. Some students may require more time to think things through before they verbally communicate it. Our students need to feel your confidence in them.
Who doesn't like being part of a team, making buckets, or moments,
1, 2,
or music? And who doesn't feel bad being excluded?
I was lagging behind, and they were going ahead, and there was really no way for me to catch up with them.
Ethan Ock made it work for a while.
Yeah.
Wooden drumsticks were replaced by lighter aluminum and eventually velcroed to his wrists.
Okay.
But spinal muscular atrophy just gets worse.
He said, I really hate to do this, but I have to quit band.
That
A 1, 2,
was 3 years ago.
ready, 8.
Before this. The light bulb went on for the director of the Swanville High School Band.
Here it is.
When Gina Christopherson saw Ethan messing around with a smartphone app.
My first day digging through iTunes, I downloaded 75 different apps. We were just on a random hunting mode. I wanted to find something that would work.
So I could do like...
Then apps met an amplifier. And Ethan
1, 2.
introduced his schoolmates to the iSchool band.
Exactly the same as his classmates, just a different mode.
Boys like Ethan give up early their dreams of playing high school sports, till along came a band director determined he wouldn't stop playing. So when marching season arrived,
I could not understand how that would work.
there was Ethan, iPad, amplifier, and a car battery.
I don't think there could be a better music teacher.
He's part of the team. You don't leave somebody behind.
I can do it.
An attitude no band room could contain.
It's awesome.
Which is why that smile belongs to a boy on his way to New York.
I don't believe in I can't.
Nor do the 30 donors covering travel expenses for the 2 nurses who will accompany Ethan on the bus trip. At Swanville High School, banding together is more than a figure of speech.
You have those people that see barriers when they look at things and those that see doors.
And those who know the meaning of team isn't only defined by the students who touch the ball.
It's his success, and we get to celebrate it too.
Boyd Hooper, Care 11 News, Swanville.
Instead of dismissing the student, the educator presumes competence. She thought outside the box to come up with a solution so the student was able to fully participate with his classmates.
Presuming competence means we believe that every student, regardless of their disability, can be successful in school with supports. Most students with disabilities have individual education plans, known as IEPs. A student's IEP will include individual information addressing the supports and approaches they would benefit from. While each student you will support in your school is unique, the next couple of slides provide some general information on practices that may benefit students with autism, emotional behavior disability, and Down syndrome. Students with autism have persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across environments and situations. They may use various means to communicate, such as picture cards or symbols on an iPad. Make sure that they have access to their communication tools across all areas of the school. They may have difficulty with skills such as eye contact, taking turns, and joining in a conversation. As a community, work together to provide supports, such as a social skills script shown in the middle of the slide. Some students may have difficulty expressing a variety of emotions. Allow for adequate time for them to process their feelings. In the classroom, you may notice that they have a harder time with reading comprehension than decoding, especially with fiction text in which they may need to infer what the characters are feeling. Many students with autism are very literal learners, so make sure you use explicit language with them to increase their understanding. For instance, if you say, "It's raining cats and dogs," they may not realize you mean it is raining a lot and may actually think cats and dogs are coming from the sky. Remember that while they may express themselves and process information differently, they are competent learners. Students with autism may also have restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interest, or activities. Having a predictable classroom and school routine is essential. Additional tools that can be beneficial include providing options for sensory breaks. In this picture, the student would be able to pick out an item from the break box to utilize to regulate their sensory input. For another student, a sensory break might be going to a designated spot down the hall to get some fresh air and a drink of water. The use of timers can also be beneficial for some students who are having difficulty moving from one activity to another, as they can let the students know how long an activity will occur. The presentation of expectations through a first-then strategy can assist the student who is reluctant to complete a particular task. In the example given, the student knows that they need to complete their math activity before they can utilize the iPad. This restricted pattern of thinking can also impact how a student with autism processes information. Many students focus on parts and patterns and not the big picture. Presenting content with the support of visuals can be especially important, so don't forget to utilize tools such as Venn diagrams and charts. Think for a second of your role in supporting a student with autism at your school. What strategies or tools can you utilize to ensure a culture of success for the student? Pause the recording and individually reflect or share your thoughts with a colleague who is next to you. Students with emotional behavioral disability are impacted by their ability to manage their emotions and self-regulate. Providing a safe, predictable environment is very important. It is essential that basic classroom and school-wide structures are in place. For instance, having a consistent way of gaining a student's attention, known as an attention signal, whether they are in the cafeteria, library, or music class, will be important. Establishing and teaching levels of conversation will help all students, including those with emotional behavioral disability, regulate their conversation levels. Teaching and reinforcing of classroom rules and expectations across activities lets students know what is acceptable behavior across different locations on your school campus. Students with emotional behavioral disability may also benefit from other strategies, such as being taught to request a structured break. Expectations for the break need to be outlined, such as where it will occur and for how long. The use of choice may increase compliance with learning activities. For instance, if a student is reluctant to begin a math activity, can they be instructed to pick 5 problems and start? If the student is having a difficult day, can they choose to work with a group or work independently? Students may also benefit from checking in with a designated adult who will help them make and self-monitor goals. Always presume competence and keep your expectations high. What steps can you take to create a culture of success for students with emotional behavior disability at your school? Pause the video and self-reflect or share with a colleague next to you. Students with Down syndrome also respond best to a highly predictable, structured environment. They tend to be visual learners, and pairing a visual with the written word in school and classroom schedules, rules, etc., can help to increase their understanding. When you are presenting academic information, don't forget to utilize a variety of visuals, including photographs and videos. Students with Down syndrome can also benefit from observing demonstrations and being able to manipulate objects. For instance, they may be able to show you answers to math problems through the use of manipulatives. Tools that can assist with fine motor tasks, such as pencil grips and slant boards, can make writing tasks easier and handwriting more legible. Some students with Down syndrome might need more time to process and respond to your verbal request. Provide adequate wait time and recognize that they may utilize various forms of communication, such as picture cards, sign language, and gesturing. They may also need additional time to transition from one activity to another or one area of the school to another, so please plan accordingly. Think of your current role at your school. How can you best support a student with Down syndrome? Pause the video and self-reflect, or share with a colleague next to you. Another important area in creating a culture of success is how we respond to a student who is in distress. What does distress look like? It could be a student who is yelling, using profanity, or pacing back and forth. As we know, this can happen anywhere across a school, and you might be the adult who was interacting with the student at the time of the incident. During these times, we need to try to calm the student down or de-escalate the situation. The following slides will offer some tips for de-escalation. Tip 1. Be empathetic and non-judgmental. Keep in mind that whatever the person is going through, it may be the most important thing in their life at the moment. You may not see the situation the same as them, but it is important to remember that their perception is their reality. Using statements such as, "That must be hard, how can I help?" lets the student know that you are there for them. Tip 2. Respect personal space. Personal space is the area surrounding an individual. Most individuals need a distance of 1.5 to 3 feet, but this can vary. If you must enter a student's personal space to provide care, explain your actions so they feel less frightened. Allowing personal space tends to decrease a person's anxiety and can help you prevent acting out behavior. Personal space also extends to a person's belongings. Remember, always be aware of how you approach a student in distress, regardless of where they are on your school campus. Tip 3. Use non-threatening nonverbals. Keeping your tone and body language neutral will go a long way towards diffusing a situation. The more a person loses control, The less they hear your words and the more they react to your nonverbal communication. Be mindful of your gestures, facial expression, movements, and tone of voice. For instance, crossing your arms and sighing sends a message that you do not have patience for the situation the individual is upset about. Tip 4. Avoid overreacting. Positive thoughts like, "I can handle this," and "I know what to do," will help you maintain your own rationality and calm the person down. Remain calm, rational, and professional. While you can't control the person's behavior, you can control how you react. How you respond to their behavior will have a direct effect on whether the situation escalates or diffuses. Remember Q-tip, quit taking it personally. Tip 5. Focus on feelings. Watch and listen carefully for the person's real message. Facts are important, but how a person feels is the heart of the matter. Try saying something like, "That must be scary." Supportive words like these will let the person know that you understand what's happening. Validate by making eye contact. Don't allow distractions while you are listening to the student. Tip 6. Ignore the challenge. Ignore the challenge, but not the person. Bring their focus back to how you can work together to solve the problem. Answering challenging questions often results in a power struggle. When a person challenges your authority, redirect their attention to the issue at hand. So if you have given a direction to start a test and a student responds, "Why do we have to do this? It's stupid." Don't engage in a power struggle by responding with, "You have to do it because I said so," or some similar phrase. Instead, briefly ignore the response, provide positive feedback to students who have started the test, and then restate your direction. It's time to start the test. Tip 7. Set limits. A person who's upset may not be able to focus on everything you say. Be clear, speak simply, and offer the positive choice first. If a person's behavior is belligerent, defensive, or disruptive, give them clear, simple, and enforceable limits. Offer concise and respectful choices. Let's think about a student who comes into the office, approaching the desk and ranting. A clear, concise limit could be, "When you sit down and lower your voice, I can assist you. If you don't, I won't be able to assist you." Tip 8. Choose wisely what you insist upon. If you can offer a person options and flexibility, you may be able to avoid unnecessary altercations. It's important to be thoughtful in deciding which rules are negotiable and which are not. For instance, if a student experiences anxiety in loud, crowded environments, can they be excused from an assembly or be able to stand in back? This might help prevent a meltdown. Tip 9. Allow silence for reflection. Believe it or not, silence can be a powerful communication tool. Letting moments of silence occur sometimes can give a person a chance to reflect on what's happening and how he or she needs to proceed. Tip 10. Allow time for decisions. A person's stress rises when they feel rushed. Allowing time brings calm. When a person is upset, they may not be able to think clearly. Give them a few moments to think about what you've said.
As a review, using person-first language, presuming competence, and addressing a student in distress by using de-escalation strategies will help create a culture of success in your community. Your students and their families will feel welcomed and valued at your school, which in turn will lead to better outcomes. Remember, you are not a team because you work together. You are a team because you respect, trust, and care for each other. As you move forward in cultivating your culture of success, uniting as a team will better support you through your journey. If you would like more information on disability awareness or additional strategies when working with students with disabilities, look no further. The Professional Development Department of Pinellas emails out a monthly flyer called Chalk Talk. Chalk Talk provides you with all current professional development that is available to you. On the Pinellas Schools website, you have access to the Professional Learning Network. The network gives you access to all forms of professional development for the school year. Your local Fiddler Center is Fiddler's Golf Coast. On our website, you can view all upcoming trainings that we provide for the school year. Make sure to take advantage of all the free resources you benefit from by being a Pinellas County School employee. Thank you for your time in viewing A Culture of Success. We hope that it has provided you with basic steps to begin creating a more inclusive learning environment at your school. The second part of this session is to complete our Survey Monkey activity. It includes your name, school name, and identifying one idea presented in this session that you felt was important. You could either write down the survey link or use the QR code that will take you directly to the survey.